Hey everyone, Wade here for the Kingdom Report. It is time for another installment of Walt Disney World in Pandemic, my solo upfront independent journey, first-hand experience of Walt Disney World during this global health crisis. If you are looking to make that personal choice, that personal decision as to whether or not you and your family should visit in the coming months, well, this is the place for you, giving you all the information you need, the whole breakdown of everything from, is it comfortable? Is it safe? Is it even worth it? Join me now as we head to Disney's Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World. Starting my day at Disney's Pop Century Resort with that complimentary transportation that all Disney Resort guests are provided upon staying on property. I am excited to share with you that the bus system is probably the most efficient it has ever been, with various resorts that have shut down in this global health crisis. There are only a handful that are online to begin with, and so there are buses waiting. Literally, you see it right there, one bus after another, waiting to swoop in to pick everybody up in order to distance them correctly on board, because you see, not every seat can be taken like it used to be. Now, you are in a place where you are sorted by the driver and told where to sit, and then there are even dividers and other elements like numbered seating in particular, where you're the only person in a given section for the sake of social distancing. It's yet another major step that Disney has taken to be safe during this pandemic for their resort guests. And in just a few minutes, we had arrived to Disney's Animal Kingdom Park. It's a wild one out there. This is a whole new entry plaza, completely redesigned, opened up, and freshened so that the hordes of arriving individuals can have a pleasant place to arrive to. You see the white tents over there? That was Advent Health staff there to scan your forehead to make sure you are not exhibiting a fever, part of the new park entry process. And yes, trams are not operating. This goes for Animal Kingdom and all the theme parks. So if you decide to drive yourself in park, you are going to be hoofing it in from those hot parking lots. No tram service at this time. Just past security, looking all the way up to the ticket booths, you notice it is a quiet day. In fact, we continue to hear from our sources that have been going to Walt Disney World for more than a month now that this is routinely the most quiet of all for Disney World theme parks. And you notice here that immediately you are confronted with everything Disney expects of you, as well as those overhead announcements that we've heard in other videos that continue to share with you to socially distance, to ensure that you're wearing a face mask, to cover your face if you are sneezing, to ensure that you are washing your hands for longer than 20 seconds. You're reminded everywhere you go in the park all day long. And you notice the 6-foot markers here leading all the way up to the main entrance so that I can scan in my magic band, and a happy cast member waiting for me. You no longer give your fingerprint like you used to. It is scan in only. And Rainforest Cafe is open here at the front of the park, one of the few table service restaurants that is online. Didn't see many people going in there, but it is an option. And as we arrive into the park itself and look towards the Tree of Life, the Cinderella Castle of this park, if you will, you notice just how quiet it is on this side. I thought maybe it would be busier once we got into the park itself, but that turned out not to be the case. It was just as quiet and spaced out as it was on the other side. This is one of the most beautiful of all the Disney parks around the world. Just serene, very quiet, very relaxing, and when even less people are in it, it kind of feels like your park. However, the park would fill up throughout the day. You would see more and more people as we go along, but just like we like to stop and admire Cinderella Castle at Magic Kingdom, at Animal Kingdom, we like to stop and reflect on the Tree of Life. Truly a gorgeous icon of this park. One thing that I was really happy to see was Disney Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro. This was a weekend, by the way, out here on his own, checking in with cast members, seeing how they are during this pandemic. The chairman of Global Parks is here by himself, checking in and saying hello. He really wanted to know how Custodial was doing with all these new health and safety measures. And I got to say, this guy, we celebrated the fact that he was promoted to this position, formerly president of Walt Disney World. And look at him. He's here what looks to be on his own time. And this is a Sunday morning during this filming. Bravo, Josh. You are somebody we should all aspire to be a little bit more like. and Discovery Trading Company. The stores here at Animal Kingdom definitely have those spaced out markers to ensure that everybody is admitted safely. In Dinoland USA, as we enter this area, immediately we notice that Character Landing is closed. No characters to meet, just like all the parks. No meet and greets right now, but they do have other entertainment, and you might hear it coming from a distance at this park because they operate a little differently. That's right, Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto on their floating barge going through the waterways of Animal Kingdom. We would see other entertainment acts throughout the day as well. Theater in the Wild is not playing Finding Nemo the Musical right now. You notice no show times. There's a reason for that. All of the live shows, for the most part, have gone dark during this global pandemic. And just recently, the Performers Union reached an agreement with Disney to bring them back in some capacity. They have not announced when, but it was a missed air-conditioned retreat, that's for sure. The Boneyard, where you can go and dig, your kids can, here in Dinoland USA, is completely closed. It's a high-touch area, so naturally it would be shut down. But you notice, throughout this whole area, most places in Dinoland USA are closed. This whole back corner of the park just absolutely shuttered, unless it is a food and beverage location. Dino Bite Snacks here, one of the few locations, few walk-ups you can go to grab a cup of ice water if you're looking for it. And then Restaurantosaurus, you must mobile order. Most of the quick service restaurants now require that. So there's a cast member at the front. You have to show them an order fulfilled on your My Disney Experience app in order to get into the restaurant. Then you can sit where you'd like. Then you can pick up your food. But until that point, they keep you outside for the sake of social distancing. It is Dinosaur Time, one of two rides, really, that are open in Dinoland USA. This, of course, is the ride modeled after the same layout and track of Indiana Jones Adventure over in Disneyland. We will race up the spaced-out markings all the way up to the entrance of this attraction. The wait time was rather short. It did say 15 minutes. However, they sent us on the wildest line I've ever experienced for this. It took about 10 minutes of just walking through an entire back corridor, like behind the building, that I didn't even realize existed. I've never seen that extended queue. And then once you're inside, they have some very unique markings because they need to keep you spaced away at least 6 feet on either direction, so that's why it's so spaced out inside. And then something that I thought was very interesting was the pre-show was also used for additional queuing space. So they ran the pre-show, but they kept the doors open the whole time, so it's not like they held you there to watch the pre-show. They just kept loading as they would permit more and more people onto the ride. Here on the loading platform itself, I got to jump on pretty easily, and you'll notice I got my own row, and they put plexiglass between me and the family behind me, and hello there. Yeah, oh, very good. They were riding and having a good time too. Back outside here in Dinoland USA, Dinorama, the whole carnival-like atmosphere in this portion of the land, is almost completely closed with the exception of Triceratops Spin, which is basically Dumbo, but with dinosaurs. And you look around the rest of this land and everything's closed. In addition to this, the shops as well as the restaurants that we were showing you, majority closed in this land. I think there's going to be some big redevelopment happening once things get a little bit safer to do so at this park. You also notice this huge amphitheater that they built specifically for the Rivers of Light Nighttime Spectacular. That they just canceled, so again, more redevelopment to come, no doubt about it. This bridge stretching all the way back to the Finding Nemo Theater, you see these 6-foot wait lines. Well, that is for Expedition Everest, all the way over there, just in case it needs to back up to that point. They are prepared. And speaking of being prepared, are you ready for a little bit more entertainment? Here comes another floating barge of fun. Listen to that music, it's on its way. You just never know, if you're near a waterway, when entertainment is going to come floating by next. Expedition Everest had a 10-minute wait. You see this extended queue outside. It really is just for the sake of distancing. All these lines, as I've mentioned in other videos, quite deceiving if you just look at them on the outside. They are rather fast. Now you also take a look at one of the few locations. This is right next to Yak and Yeti Table Service Restaurant, one of the few walk-up locations. Yak and Yeti does still need a reservation. They take walk-ups occasionally, but very rarely, still requiring that reservation on the busier, more active days. And then one show that we noticed that is still playing at this point, it is modified from its current version, or should I say its most recent version, and that is Up, a Great Bird Adventure. So you still get to see the birds, and it is a modified show setup, but this is still one of the very few, very limited stage show entertainment offerings that they have at this park. Directly across from it, you see one of two relaxation stations here at Animal Kingdom. This is the outdoor one, and I was sweating buckets. This is the hottest park, and it's absolutely unbearable at points in the Florida summer. I know I did it to myself. I came, I didn't have to, but I am here, and so I am suffering through it with my mask. Relaxation stations are the one place where you can take off your mask because you are spaced out. It's a controlled environment with cast members at the entrance and exit, and they monitor it. But you see, there are only a couple of fans here, and then like 6 tables. So very few tables even, and they had to keep turning people away from the relaxation station. In a park this hot, you need that help. So relaxation station number 1 right here across from the Up Adventure Show. And a little bit more entertainment floated our way. That's right, in the great circle of life, Timon and Rafiki come floating by the waterways at Animal Kingdom. A little further up the path, Harambe Marketplace is completely shuttered, an area that you can really just go sit in, and they do have distanced tables and markings as to where you can and can't sit, but the entire area is shut down otherwise. This was an expanded area that was really added for the sake of nighttime offerings. It was something that kind of went alongside the Rivers of Light Nighttime Spectacular that was recently canceled, and now you see just a bunch of these food storefronts completely shut down. A really sad thing to come across, especially since it's such a big offering opportunity back there. Kilimanjaro Safari, standby entrance 20 minutes. We are about to jump on, but first we need to make it through the queue. This 20-minute queue really ended up being just a walk to the ride itself. It was, I would say, about 12 minutes, I think is what I clocked it at. So it went by really quick. You see these dividing plexiglass walls that they have orchestrated here in between you and the other line that may come by. This is the special needs line over here on the opposite side that you don't see anybody walking through at this point. Oh, there we go. But this is one of those areas where it can get kind of tight, tight corners, tight turns. I've now boarded the Jeep on my way onto Safari, and you see not only the dividers for the lines themselves to get on board, but now also once you're on board, they have constructed these scrims between you and the seats in front of you so that there is an added layer of protection in terms of respiratory droplets and anything that might go between you and the other rows. Something that I was very unhappy to see, the amount of people completely disregarding the mask rule even after being told not to. On this ride in particular, whole families were taking off their masks. The driver was asking them to put them back on. Nothing happened. You exit off the ride and you see another one of those hand washing stations that we see throughout the rest of the parks that ask you to go ahead, wash for 20 seconds. Those temporary hand washing stations that they just plop all over the place. The streets of Harambe, which are usually bustling with activity, not so much at 1:20 in the afternoon. Rather quiet by comparison of what we usually see in this area. That's just because there's not a lot going on. Tusker House is closed. A lot of those storefronts aren't even open at this point. And the Festival of the Lion King just around the corner, one of the biggest entertainment draws in the entire park, It has been closed this entire time too. However, we did notice these distance markers all throughout the queue area, almost like there's an expectation that it will be returning soon. And as I had mentioned, with that Performers Union finally agreeing with Disney that they are going to come back in some capacity, we might see it sooner rather than later. But look at that extended queue all the way down the bridge. And oh my gosh, it's more entertainment.
Be part of the adventure right where you are and wave hello as they sail by.
Yep, Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto. You can never get enough of them, right? It was the second time that I had come across them, but on a different waterway on the opposite side of the park. Thought I'd share it again. Up the pathway we go to the Valley of Moana. This is the world of Avatar, Pandora, here at Animal Kingdom. And without very many crowds, this place is truly even more picturesque than it was before, which is hard to do because it is the most captivating of all the lands in Animal Kingdom. And very few folks in the region. It felt like a brochure. That's how nice it felt, like walking into the brochure and those photos you usually see of an empty park. 15-minute standby wait for Flight of Passage. This is the big mega e-ticket attraction in the land that sometimes commands up to 3 and 4 hour wait times. 15 minutes. Now, this queue I have never done standby in. I've only ever done Fast Pass for the sake of bypassing those 4-hour waits. And throughout this process, and they use the entire standby queue, I didn't realize how long it was. Number one, I can't believe how amazing the standby queue is. There's so much to see and experience. But number two, I was truly impressed with just how many elements they put in place to socially distance and keep people safe in this environment. On top of that, the 15 minutes was really just about 10 is what I clocked it at to get from the starting line all the way up here to the loading area. 10 minutes, and it was mostly just walking the entire time. That's how long of a queue this is, getting ready to load here. One thing I thought was really interesting was they only loaded us in groups of 3 so that we were properly distanced, so we didn't mind anything on the ground. We were just spaced out specifically 6 feet away from each party, so there were only 3 groups of us. Regardless of however many dots there were on the ground originally for the ride when it's in operation to begin with. And then we were loaded onto our vehicles, spaced out with multiple vehicles in between, just to ensure once again that we were as distanced as possible by the cast members. Satuli Canteen is the quick service restaurant here in Pandora. And it is a fantastic option. It is mobile order only at this point, so you do have to convince the cast member on the way in that your order has been fulfilled before they let you in. But it's got some of the best quick service food in all of Animal Kingdom. Highly recommend it if you can book your mobile order. Back across this beautiful land, we go on over to the next big attraction, the Navi River Journey. Where could it be? The standby entrance is 20 minutes? Yeah, they're quoting 20 minutes for the boat ride here in Pandora. Remember, 15 minutes for Flight of Passage. This turned out to be an absolute walk-on. Okay, so I didn't even have to walk for 10 minutes. This was about a 5-minute walk. I got all the way up to the front, and I had to snake back and forth through all those switchbacks just to get to this point. There was one family in front of me. I probably waited 10 seconds before I was sent on my journey. I got my own boat, by the way. So your own party gets your own boat, part of the social distancing policies. And this is a ride that is just so unique in its beauty. It doesn't have a whole lot of action or anything like that. It really is just a majestic ride. Outside of Pandora and back into Animal Kingdom proper, you see here Tiffin's, the upscale table service restaurant, is open and operating. You do need reservations to get in here, and it was hopping. Very, very busy location. Just down from Tiffin's a ways, you see Pizzafari is not in operation as a quick service restaurant at this time. In fact, it's the Relaxation Station, the only other relaxation station in the park, and it is the only other one that has air conditioning. So the only one, I should say, period, that has air conditioning, to be clear. So this area here is fresh with AC for you and is absolutely needed in a park as blazing hot as Animal Kingdom can be. In the final hours of operation, usually the big stores in every park get kind of inundated with folks that are shopping one last time before they head out. And you see the markers here, they never really had to use them at this park, at least not this night, and it was rather quiet still, even as things were coming to a close. And you notice for PhotoPass, there's only like one family waiting, and this is what I saw most of the day in all the PhotoPass locations. As we finish things up, we begin to close out the Animal Kingdom theme park day. You see folks heading out for the last time. Outside the main entrance, you notice these yellow shirt cast members. These are the enforcement arm cast members that are there to make sure that you are wearing your masks and abiding by all the specific rules. I only saw them twice during this entire day. Once was out here and the other time was over by Kilimanjaro Safari, but for the most part I didn't see them throughout the park the entire day. Part of my concern here is that when it comes to the safety matters of this park, I saw outright defiance in several instances where cast members that were outside of the responsibility of being the enforcement squad and they were doing other responsibilities, I saw them ask guests to please wear their face covering properly or lift their face covering up, and I noticed that often they were sneered at, laughed at. I watched people of a certain age, beyond 50 years old, completely disregard and disrespect the cast members in this process. So a lot of defiance in this place. Like I said earlier, whole families on board Kilimanjaro Safari that just refused to put their mask back on, and nothing happened to them, which really upset me. And then several places for people to hide in this park. Like I said, a lot less visible enforcement. This park has a lot of nooks and crannies, a lot of places that you can go and just get away from everybody else, because there's a lot of paths where you can go see animals and stuff like that. And folks were doing that and using it as an excuse to, well, I'm away from folks, so I don't necessarily have to follow all the rules. It was unfortunate. As far as it being comfortable, it is the hottest park there is. More air-conditioned spots would be very helpful. And in conclusion, I would mention that if you are concerned about maybe claustrophobia or being just too close to big crowds in general, this park is not even filling up to the limited capacity amount that they are looking for on most days. A lot of room to spread out here, a lot of places to even self-isolate if that is something that would interest you. So is it worth it? Overall, I would say that the wait times are so low. I was literally walking onto things left and right. The only other park by comparison I was doing that at would have been Epcot. So definitely a huge sell point there. When it comes to the shows, other than the Up Bird Adventure, which is, again, a modified version of what it was, having no shows is a real drawback here, especially because there's a lack of indoor activities overall. And this is such a bloody hot park. I can't overstate that enough. With the mask on and the humidity already on top of the extra heat in this park, it can be really challenging, and park attractions can be done in just a few hours. I did mention here just a moment ago all the defiance that I was seeing here and the cast members that were being disrespected, and it just didn't seem like there was enough of an enforcement arm. And I also didn't see security anywhere inside. I just took note of that I never saw one badge anywhere. So maybe a little bit more enforcement would be beneficial here, but I would say overall, all things considered, especially given how little there is to do, unless you're a diehard Pandora fan and you want to ride that a million times, I may encourage you to skip this park right now. Might not be worth the money in its current state. But of course, we give you the information. It's all up to you. Can't thank you enough for visiting me here on Walt Disney World in Pandemic. Make sure you check out my next videos, Hollywood Studios and Epcot, as well as Magic Kingdom and my travel day. For the Kingdom Report, I'm Wade Heath. We will see you next time.